Let's move on. We already touched on it a little bit when Jacob mentioned about Bryan Hill. Do you think, if fit, it's time for Richarlison to come back in on that left-hand side so we can keep maybe Kulusevski in that middle, play Brennan Johnson on the right, Richarlison on the left, or would you prefer to persist with Bryan Hill, Brian?
I'm going to chuck a grenade in here and literally say, can't remember who I was talking with, but why can't we try, because he does this with Argentina, why don't we go Basuma, Højbjerg, Kulu, Johnson back on the right, Lo Celso on the left?
I disagree. Nah, I don't like that at all.
As an option, I don't like that at all. I just think at the moment Bryan Hill hasn't done it in the games he's on. He's only had 2. We're looking at options and other ways to incorporate. Brennan Johnson is better on the right.
Yeah.
For me, that's his natural position. Want Kulu in the central. And I would rather have Lo Celso than Bryan Hill and Richarlison. If it meant getting Lo Celso and getting more. I'm not saying we'll do that, but that's another option. I don't know. I really don't know when it comes to Bryan Hill or Richarlison. Do we want to rush Richarlison back? He weren't 100% fit mentally or physically all season.
I'm just saying if he is fit. That's a caveat there.
I still don't know. And in a London derby like this, coming up with his hot head as well, there's a lot of pressure whenever he's on the pitch. I think he could do a lot more against West Ham coming off the bench than he could.
I'd actually prefer to persist with Bryan Hill than actually put Lo Celso out on that on that left-hand side. And I think that Giovanni has been doing so well in that centre of the park. If it ain't broke, don't fix it for me with these 2 guys in the middle. I think they're both complementing each other so well with Giovanni and Decky. And we finally found a position for Giovanni in this team over the last 4 or 5 years that actually works for him. So for me, you have to keep him in that position. He's performing really well, 2 goals in his last 2 games, influencing the game in a positive manner. Yes, Bryan Hill hasn't been great over the last 2 games, but I think in the first half against Villa, we did see some good signs from Bryan Hill. In the first 10 minutes, he did that lovely pass to Kulusevski that set us on our way to score that first goal. So maybe there's a case to say, let's keep, if Richarlison isn't fit, to keep persisting with Bryan Hill and see if he can grow into that role. But for me, if Richarlison is fit, I would switch it to him, to be honest. Jacob, how are you feeling about the situation?
For me, in regards to Lo Celso and how he plays for Argentina, Tagliafico is that left back that kind of will overlap every single time. And so he doesn't have to play that left winger necessarily. He's just like a left attacking 10, if you will. And it's just, he's kind of occupying that same area. So I see what Brian's saying in that regard. Can he do it? But I think it would be a lot different because he still has on his left an overlap runner. So when it comes to Lo Celso, I agree. I think middle of the park, left side, middle of the park, he's really running things. Not a wrong pass put. And then also versus Aston Villa, we were crying out for some creativity because we didn't see much versus Wolves, right? And granted, was not thinking Lo Celso would be that guy, but even aside from his shot, that it was a great shot that got saved, by the way, versus Villa, but he was making passes that were no one else does. Maybe Son, maybe Madison, but no one else really does that. Let me lay it off very soft in the box for Udogie making a run, for Ben Davies when he got forward. It was just the little cheeky layoffs. He was just started doing these really savvy forward progressive passes from Lo Celso in the final third that I'm like, okay, maybe he actually really can operate in this substitute Madison role. And he doesn't occupy the same areas when you look at his heat map, but from a passing maps standpoint, I think he really is, at least for City, he was operating kind of like that box to box because he would drop deep when he needed to, and he's getting stuck in. Giovanni Lo Celso getting stuck in is not something I had on my bingo card at the end of 2023. I'm going to be honest, because I thought this guy, every time I see him slump shoulders, bow-legged walking, corners hitting the first man, and then it was just like I never thought we'd get the best tune out of him. But hey, that's the Ainge Postecoglou effect, I guess. Kulusevski, for me, I agree with you, Ben. I don't want to see him as a winger. But I just think Postecoglou is going to say, look at what I did in the second half with Kulusevski going back to the right wing, Brennan Johnson going back on the left. Although Brennan Johnson did turn around a $90 million center back, lest we forget. Josko Vardiol was looking for his car keys after Brennan Johnson turned him around. So I like Brennan Johnson on the right. But I think Kulusevski his future, like Brian said, I think is shifting in more centrally, because all his best attributes, which he's very good at. You need pace and power to be an effective winger forward in this league, and he's got the power, but he just doesn't have that pace. But he has the mind for it. So I think either you put him up forward in kind of a Swedish role, what he does is like that right forward striker, or you let him sit back underneath the front attacking line and really distribute that ball. And then look what he did. He knows he can lay the ball off, make his run, ends up with Duncan. Hit him with the LeBron. I'm sorry, I keep thinking about it.
We all do, Jacob. Don't worry, we all do. Sim?
I think for next game, I think I would just stick with Hill, only because I actually like the balance of having him in the team gives us. I know him individually hasn't been particularly impressive, albeit he's had some nice moments. He's shown a bit moments of quality. You got to remember as well, up against probably one of the best defensive right backs in the league on Sunday as well, and Kyle Walker.
Premier League history.
He's not going to be up against Kyle Walker every week, so he will be against Soufal. I know Soufal in his own right is a good defender, but I'm sure he can get a lot more joy out of Soufal than he did against Kyle Walker. I like the balance he gives us. I think Richarlison was doing okay out on the left before he got his injury, but he still likes to cut inside. He still, I think, doesn't stay wide enough. And I think Gil, being a left footer, playing on the left, and as the dynamic of the team with Lo Celso allows Lo Celso and Kulusevski to go in there, allows Brennan Johnson to play on the right as well. I think he's shown enough in the last two games just to keep his spot. I don't think he's been that bad where I think we have to just rush Richarlison back. I would say he's shown enough for me, just enough for me, especially again in the Villa game, to say I'm going to stick with you for this game. If you're still not impacting the game enough, Richarlison comes in against Newcastle, but gives Richarlison a few more days, and I think it gives Hill another opportunity to impress. And then if Hill starts as well, he can't then turn around and say, look, you haven't given me a chance, you haven't given me a run of games. I think get three starts in a row, and if he's still not doing anything, then I think you can say you've given him an opportunity. But I just think Hill, I like the balance it gives us. It's more about he stays wide, he tugs the touchline, and it just naturally gives more space to the players in the centre.
And that's what Postecoglou wants from his system, right? That's what we knew about Postecoglou's system before he came to Spurs. Wingers are very wide and let the central players cause their carnage as they go through. And maybe having Brian Hill on the left, a naturally left footer, Brennan Johnson on the right, who's naturally should be playing on the right, maybe that does give us our best dynamic moving forward with the players that we have available. What do you guys think, Brian?
Yeah, listen, it could do. Like I said, Lo Celso for me on the left was just an option that we do have. Obviously, he does it for Argentina. Brian Hill is just you want him to do so well, don't you? We all want him to do so well. Crystal Palace away when we were there, Ben, last year, he was devastating. Probably his best performance in a Spurs shirt, and you could really see what he could do. But he just hasn't been able to deliver it. And like you both said, he's not had a run of games. And the one thing I will give him is, as I said with Simeon when we did the update, is he's played under defensive managers. This is the first time he's got an attacking manager that will utilise his attributes to say, right, this time you're getting a go. If I had to choose Richarlison or Hill to start this game, I'm choosing Hill. I just think Hill will offer more for what we need, like getting on the wing. Richarlison's come off the bench. So yeah, you're right. It'll be nice to actually have a right footer on the right and a left footer on the left to get those balls in. So maybe this is the game for Hill, but I think he's running low on opportunities now. He's got to start delivering.
Yeah, I agree.
For me, I think that I look at this matchup and I want to say, who offers you more in a high press versus West Ham, Brian Hill or Richarlison? And I think Richarlison, we were actually starting to get an okay tune from him at left wing, and then all of a sudden the pubis. I didn't know where the pubis came from, but apparently that was a problem. And it was just like, Richarlison I always equate, he's either the most unlucky footballer ever or he's just not that good. And I'm still stuck somewhere in between, because when I'm like, okay, I think he's just not that good, then I'm like, well, that was nice. Well, he did that there. But again, then you give him the opportunity and you're just like, wow, I gave you a chance and this is what you've done with it. It may be more fair, I think, to give Brian Hill one more go, because you're right, Sim. He's not going to be playing Kyle Walker. When you say Kufal or versus Kyle Walker, it's like, well, I mean, come on. He might have a
Yeah.
better chance of getting joy versus Kufal. So I think for Brian Hill's sake, maybe it is just one more go at it because this is his first real like winger with the ball at your feet. Go do what you're gonna do type of philosophy rather than Conte was like you have it at your feet now get rid of it type of mentality. Go pass it backwards and not get the ball at your feet and you can dance with it and try something and I'm not gonna be mad at you for it. And maybe that freedom is what Brian Hill needs because in La Liga does lend you to more of that. If anyone who watches La Liga, there's more ball to feet, letting a man carry with the ball. Let's see what he's going to do. Whereas in the Premier League, when the ball's at your feet, someone's going to crash into you very, very quickly. You got to do something. And if Brian Hill can do something before he gets clattered into, then maybe we can see the best of him. I just worry that West Ham, they're going to see this as their cup final. It's going to be heavy physical. It's going to be like a rivalry type derby match. We know this. And I just don't know that Brian. I think he can fold very much quicker than Richarlison. Richarlison does fall over very easy, but in the press when he holds up play as well, he can be quite physical. He can actually put the hurting on. And then maybe a Brian Hill on tired legs after Richarlison's kind of chipped away at them for 60, 65 minutes, bring on a Brian Hill and then let him dance around. And maybe that's the I don't know. But again, whatever the schematic that Postecoglou wants to go with, I'm just going to trust in it. I'm going to say what I think, but at the end of the day, I hold my hands up and say Postecoglou knows who works best for this Postecoglou setup. So,
Just a quick one. You know, Santiago was on the bench against City and Donnelly as well.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about maybe giving them a go?
I think that look, there's an option to play them there, especially a Santiago who's a naturally left wing player. But I just feel like it'll be a bit of a kick in the teeth to Brian Hill if Santiago does come in on the left-hand side. But yeah, Brian Hill hasn't been at the best and hasn't given us the best options. But I just feel like he deserves a bit more of a chance, like you said. Richarlison as well, we bought in for 60 million last year. And if he's not fit enough, I would still persist with Brian Hill with maybe having Santiago come on in the latter stages of the game to give him some minutes. So I think it's a bit too soon for these guys to come in, to be honest. Do you agree?
Yeah, probably.
I would agree on that.
Yeah, I'd probably
Sorry,
agree.
Sam.
But if there are a few injuries, I would like to see what they can do, even if it's for a little cameo or something. I would
agreed.
like to see that.
Jacob, were you about to say something?
Yeah, it was so good to see Jamie Donnelly make his debut. I got distracted earlier with the point I was going to make because I almost mentioned it was so good to see Jamie Donnelly, but it had nothing to do with the point. It was just another smile at the end of that match there because very happy for him. Would like to see him get maybe the same or double the amount of minutes, 3-4 minutes, give him 5 or 6 in front of the home crowd. Maybe same thing with Iago Santiago. Now, to throw Iago Santiago, he just came back, I believe, from a very serious hamstring injury that has kept him out from some games in the academy. I do subscribe to Spurs play. I love seeing them integrated into the squad. And I'm not a big fan of 2 goalkeepers on the bench and an empty spot on the bench as well. I'm not a big fan of that. So filling it up with kids, that's kind of my thought as well. And I think last week with Aston Villa was a little like a registration thing. They didn't register them in time enough to say we're calling them up, and it was a clerical error. And I think you're going to get those little kinks from new league, new rules, etc. from Postecoglou and his staff, but Jamie Donnelly, Iago Santiago, I agree. I don't think that they're ready, but let them feel the temperature of the pool.
Yeah.
They're not ready to swim. Don't take the life jacket off, so to speak. Let them get their feet in there, splash around a little bit. All right, we'll come back tomorrow. That's my mentality. I've been crying so long. I want a pathway for the academy to the first team. We've seen Nani Madueke, Marcus Edwards, Dylan Markandé is another one I can think of that just leave. The most recent one, he left last year. I can't remember his name now. Mundell? No, not Mundell.
Yeah, Remain Mundell, yeah.
Romain Mundell, yeah. Another talent that I was just like, dang, that. I mean, I can see it from their point of view too. They're like, what am I doing here? Conte's never going to give me a chance. At least with Postecoglou, the kids are now seeing it like, you know what? If I play well for the academy, someone's going to notice, and it may get word to Postecoglou. That's what's happening. Alejo Veliz gets his first goal or something like that, and then next thing you know, he makes a substitute appearance. This is reward for the work that you put in, and I think that's only going to be a progressive thing for our club going forward, because again, you have a James Maddison go down, but if the academy has been playing Ange Postecoglou style for 5-6 years, you have a kid who's been playing James Maddison role for 5-6 years. James Maddison's out. Oh, don't worry, this kid's been playing that same role for 5 years. He knows exactly what I'm looking for. That's what Pep's building a city. That's what I want to see for us in regards to our academy. So love Jamie Donnelly being there. Would love Iago Santiago to get another couple minutes in stoppage time. Maybe would love that.